Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the J Lounge. Of course, you guys know I am your hostess with the most, Miss J, aka Miss Simone Jackson, here to bring you guys another wonderful episode of the J Lounge. Of course, everyone knows the J Lounge is a celebrity-based podcast show where we talk with celebrities, authors, directors, singers, you name it. They all come down here and they always have a great time. As per normal, I am always excited to be introducing our next guest. My next guest is showing a masterclass of how to write suspenseful books. I am super excited she is here to be talking about her books and just who she is as an author. And I'm very excited to be introducing my audience to her. Please give a super warm welcome to Hannah Mary. Hi,
Hi, Simone. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Hi, thank you so much for being on here today. I appreciate you giving me your time, and I know my audience is really excited to know about you, so I appreciate you giving me your time today.
My pleasure. My pleasure being here. Thank you. Hello, listeners.
Yes, yes. So I'm going to go ahead and fire the first question at you, and I want to know what began your passion for books and writing?
Gosh, I mean, we'd have to go back to my childhood, I suppose. um, my mum and dad always used to read to my sister and me, and then my sister used to read to me as well. She's 2 years older, and she used to put on funny voices and stuff. So I guess that's probably where it started. But then after so that would be my passion for books and reading, but I have gone through periods where I haven't read much, which is a weird thing to admit as an author, I guess. But for example, when I was heavily focused on my corporate career, or when we had our three sons, we had three kids in 16 months, we had twins the second time around, it got a bit busy, so I didn't read much. But I'd say the very, very early stages was my parents and also my grandmother, who used to make up stories and send them over to us on cassette tapes. That's how old I am.
I still remember cassette tapes. It's not that long. It's not that long. But I do love that. I do love hearing the stories about people, the memories about people remembering their parents or their grandparents reading to them because
Mhm.
that sparks an early creative, process in young kids. That's really kicks off the imagination. So I'm glad that you were able to get that. And on cassette tapes, I mean, that's legendary to me.
Isn't
Everyone
that
that
fun? And I still have them. My husband put them on. He put them on CD. CD. I mean, it's probably on my iTunes somewhere. But we did upgrade and pop them on CDs so we didn't lose them in case the cassette tapes broke. And it's hilarious hearing my grandmother. I mean, she's been gone for so long now, but it's just lovely because she used to make up all these stories for her grandkids, which is just awesome. It's wonderful. I was very fortunate.
that is amazing. And that's creativity. To create
Yeah.
stories is not easy. It is
No.
not easy at all. It takes a lot of meticulous work. It takes a lot of thinking, and there's a lot of creative blocks on that way. But yeah, I think that's just when you can create stories that shows so much creativity and talent. So that's amazing.
Oh, thank you. My grandmother was also a very, very skilled seamstress. Alas, that talent did not get passed down to me. I can manage a button. That's about it.
I look, I can't even sew a button, so you're already ahead of me in that game. So I can't even sew a button. You hand me a sew and a button, I'm gonna look at you like, what am I supposed to do? Where is it supposed to go? Yeah. So you're already ahead of me on that. Going on to the number two question. Name three authors that inspire you and why.
So I think I'll go back to round about when I started my writing journey, when I was playing around with the idea of writing. I remember falling in love with David Nichols's book. So he wrote Us. That's his latest. Is it Us the latest one? No, the Sweetest Sorrow is the latest one. But I read his first book, Starter for 10. He's a British author, and his dialogue just made me laugh so much. And he's the one who influenced my dialogue because his is so snappy and so funny. He writes for movies and TV as well. So that's one of them. Then another one would be Jennifer Hillier. She is actually, we live in the same town now. She was the one who pulled me over to the dark side of suspense, because my very first novel was a romantic comedy, so that would be two. And then another one, another long-term love affair that I've had with the books of Lisa Jewell, who I find is really fascinating in the sense that she started out in the 90s in oh gosh, we'd call it chick lit. I'm not really a fan of that terminology, but people recognize what it is. And then she moved into another one I don't particularly like, women's fiction, but general fiction. And then she moved into suspense. And I love how she reinvented herself. And she's had a career for, since 1999, I think her first book published, so a while now. So those are my three answers.
I love that. And I love how Jennifer and really influenced you to go into suspense. I feel like there's still some stigma around for women that in suspense, novels, and so I'm so glad you went to suspense novels because, we all know of Stephen King and you know Dean Koontz. They all can really do good suspense novels and books and stuff, but it's refreshing to see a woman's perspective in the suspense genre. So
I
I'm really glad
agree.
you went
I
in.
agree, and I think there's been a big surge. I mean, another one I'd add who had a big impact was Gillian Flynn with Gone Girl, the holy grail of domestic
Yes.
suspense novels, I guess. And I remember reading Gone Girl and thinking, oh wow, I can write female characters who are A, really strong, B, who don't care whether the reader likes them or not. That's interesting. I like messy characters. And,
Yes.
and there's always this debate about unlikable female characters.
I know.
We never have the debate about unlikable male characters,
Nope.
really, do we? So I love writing and reading unlikable characters. My stance is, as long as I understand them, and hopefully my reader understands why my characters are the way they are, they can be as unlikable as you please, as long as I understand why. If they're just unlikable to be unlikable, well, then why go on the journey with them, right? But
Exactly. Exactly. I have to agree. And I do have to agree, for male characters, people expect, male characters and just men in general to be three-dimensional. It's still hard for some people to see women as three-dimensional people. That we
I
have
agree.
more than just one layer, we have more than just one side. We have complex and we have many, many different layers to us and many different sides. And it's some sides still haven't been shown yet. So I'm with you. I do like the messy characters, the women that don't care, because there are women out there like that, and it's okay to
Yeah.
explore those characters.
Yep. And interestingly, my last suspense novel, The Revenge List, that one has a female character. She's in anger management. She's in anger
Interesting.
management because of an altercation that happens at work. She works for her dad, and there's an altercation with a client, and she has issues. She has reasons for being angry, and it was an exploration of why women, even today in 2023, are not allowed to be angry. And
Exactly.
it's such an interesting, the feedback I've had, some people love Frankie. Some people, oh no, she's angry. I can't deal with an angry woman. Well, she's in anger management, so the clue's on the back of the book. She grows and she learns and she evolves. But it was so interesting to explore this way of thinking that women, yes, we are allowed to be angry as long as we
Yeah.
don't show it. As long as we don't show it, we have to stay, poised. And she flips out and says things and does things that I would maybe want to do, but wouldn't
Yeah.
do. So that was really interesting. And I don't think you get that with male characters either. They can be,
No.
it's almost expected.
Right.
It's
Exactly. Like I said, three-dimensional.
Mhm.
Three-dimensional.
Yeah, very
Oh,
strange.
right. Going on to the next question, Hannah. Name three people who influenced your career and why.
So definitely I'm going to put my husband in the top spot there,
Oh,
because I worked a corporate job. I was in IT recruitment for a long time until we moved to Canada. Rob is Canadian. I'm British and Swiss, so I was living in Switzerland when we met. He moved over to Switzerland. We had kids. He was a stay-at-home dad for 7 years,
Oh,
and
wow.
I forged my career. I was the CEO of an IT recruitment company, and then we decided that life balance was zilch, and we needed to make a change. So we came to Canada, and I started my own business here. It failed miserably. I worked for another company, did the whole corporate thing again, but I wasn't happy. I really, really wasn't happy. And I was, moping around. And he said, if you could do anything, what would it be? And I half-heartedly said, well, if I could do anything successfully, then I think I'd like to write. And he said, well, why don't you give that a go? You supported us, which isn't true because he supported me when he was at home with the kids. But he said, financially, you supported us. Let me do that now. He's an electrician. He started up his own company,
Oh,
and his
wow.
mine crashed and burned. His did really well. So, and he said, let me worry about supporting us financially. You go do what you want. Just give it a go. Just try. And that was 10 years ago,
Oh,
and here we are. So
that is heart-meltingly beautiful.
he's a wonderful guy. I got so lucky. It's a whole story how we met. We married in 10 weeks, meeting face to it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. So
But
I'll come back
still,
for
that's
that one.
amazing. That's amazing. But your second
So
choice?
second one would be my mum and dad, because I remember my dad saying, if you're not happy in your career, change it. Don't
Yep.
just sit there and be stuck and moan about it. Do something about it. Change it. And I always remembered that. That was just something that always stuck with me. And then the third one, honestly, I'm going to have to go back to Jennifer Hillier, because we're close friends now. But when I wrote my first novel, the Time After Time, that was the rom-com, and I was at the library waiting for one of my kids, and I saw her debut novel Creep on the shelf. And for anyone who hasn't seen it, it's got this grey cover with these big red shiny letters that say Creep, and a pair of handcuffs dangling down. I thought, oh, that's intriguing. And I picked it up and I read the back, and then I sat down and I started reading it, and I took it home and I devoured it, and I read her the sequel, Freak, and then The Butcher as well. And I just loved them, and I thought, this is the kind of stuff I want to write. I want to go over to suspense. I want to write the gritty stuff where things don't work out for everyone in the end. And that inspired The Neighbours. And a few years later, I saw her at a conference, and I had a whole fangirl moment, that high pitched. Oh my God. It was so embarrassing. And she was so gracious, and she asked where I lived, and same city, and she said, great, let's meet up for coffee. And now we're really close friends. So it's lovely.
That is beautiful. And I love that. I love that. I love how you guys came close. And like I said, I love how she inspired that for you to leave the romance and go into suspense where, like you said, where everything doesn't work out for everybody.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
that's more reality, So
Yes,
I
yes.
I appreciate that. I truly appreciate that. All right, going on to the next question. Um, what are some challenges and rewards of being an author?
So I think the challenges are, I mean, one could say that it's the same in any job, really. You're never sure if you're going to get another book deal. It's never certain. You don't, and even if you do, you don't know how well the book is going to do. There's an awful lot that is out of your control once you've written the book, and that's just something that you have to that you I say you one
No, you're fine.
that I had to accept that this isn't all in my control. I can write the best book I possibly can. Hopefully it will do well. Hopefully it will land well. But that's really all I can do. And then, of course, promote it and whatnot. Of course, sure. But the actual work in itself. So there's a certain amount of uncertainty. I'd like my big thing would be longevity in my career. That's
Mm,
what I would love to see. I want to continue doing this for as long as people will read my stuff.
exactly.
Um, So that can be a bit of a bit of a challenge. You don't necessarily see many people either as an author. But I do a lot of, when I do my research, I tend to just pick up the phone and call people. I for example, I called a funeral home for the next book that's coming out next year. And I just Googled the area where I had a body and Googled the funeral home, and the gentleman who answered, his name was John. I said, "Hi, John. I'm an author, I promise. Here's my website in case you need to check. But I'm wondering if you could help me figure out where I could put a spare body in a graveyard." So it was hilarious, the conversations I have, with paramedics, with ER doctors, with lawyers, it's just absolutely wonderful. So while you can feel a bit isolated while you're working on something, there's a whole community out there, which brings me to the benefits, the advantages. And I think the whole writing community is something that I did not expect. The first time I went to a conference, it was BoucherCon, which is the annual murder mystery readers writers convention, and they have it in a different place every year. And in 2017, it happened to be Toronto. So off I go. I know my agent and my editor. That's it. That's all I knew. And I knew Mary Kubica and Kimberly Bell because I'd asked them if they would blurb, so write a little endorsement, read and write a little endorsement for my first suspense novel, The Neighbours. I kid you not, I arrived there knowing two people. I left with, I don't know how many, a dozen friends, and we're still in touch. It's such a supportive, wonderful community that took me entirely by surprise, and it truly is inspiring and wonderful. And I'm really lucky to be a part of that, and pay it forward to new people coming into that community. That's really important to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's very important. I think that's absolutely beautiful. That is absolutely lovely. I'm so glad you found a very welcoming, loving community. That's
Yes,
what's the important
yes,
part. Yeah.
yes, it really is. Yeah, yeah.
All right. Going on to the next question, Hannah. What future projects are you involved with that you can give a little dish about to the J Lounge audience?
Oh, okay. So my next thriller is called Only One Survives. It is
Ooh.
about the rise and violent demise of the all-female pop rock group, The Bittersweet. So they are involved in a fatal car accident out in the middle of nowhere in the Catskills. And one of them decides that, well, sometimes bands are worth more dead than alive, and bad
Ooh.
stuff begins.
I hope to make that into a feature film. I would be absolutely interested in that. That
I would
sounds
love that. That
chilling.
would be great. So that one
Ooh.
publishes in July, and I also write romantic comedies again. Funnily enough, my first one came out in September, called The Christmas Wager. I have another one coming out next year, tentatively called The Christmas Countdown, and those are under my pseudonym Holly Cassidy. So it's very funny going from I just finished the one where people are falling in love and everything works out in the end and it's all sweet and everything, and then I'm thinking, okay, I've got to go murder some fictional characters. Let me loose. It's too much
Oh.
happiness here. Let me go murder.
That's okay. Look, we need more happiness. That is okay. That
Yes.
is okay, but that's exciting. Definitely keep the here us at J Lounge posted because we want to know more for sure
Yeah,
once
of
more
course.
develops. Um, where can the J Lounge audience follow you and your work?
So I am on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads as Hannah Mary Mckinnon. I do have a Twitter /X/ whatever it's called today account, Hannah M.
Thank you.
McKinnon. I don't use that one so much. So Instagram, Facebook, and Threads are your best bet. Alternatively, my website, hannahmarymckinnon.com. And there's also a link on there from that website to my Holly Cassidy romance books as well. So people can
Eh,
find a link to those too.
I highly encourage my audience, make sure you follow Mary and just give her support. And yeah, keep checking out her books because we want to see more. We want to
Thank
see,
you.
of course. Going on to the next question. What goals do you hope to achieve in your career that you haven't yet?
I'd love to see author's dream. I'd love to see one of my books made into something for the screen.
Yes, I was
You
gonna
know, whether
say.
it's small or large or somewhere in between, I don't mind. That would be really, really fun. That would be really fun. I did a screenwriter's course many moons ago to help me with plotting my novels, which actually really helped because you've got to be really tight in film plots. So that was really interesting. But I don't know if I'd go into screenwriting. I don't know if I'd actually be able to do it. The dialogue piece, yes, because I love doing dialogue. The rest, I'm not so sure. But definitely see something on screen. And as I mentioned before, you know, I think it's the longevity of my career that I'm hoping for, to be able to do this. My first book published in 2016, but I'd love to keep writing and keep publishing them for, you know, another 10 years and beyond, please. That would be great.
Yes, that, and I am certain that's going to happen for you. Absolutely certain.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
No problem. No problem. Going on to the next question. What are some advice would you give aspiring authors?
So one thing I didn't do, or one thing I did do and I shouldn't have, I wrote my first novel, was Time After Time, the rom-com, very, very, very quickly. And then I sent it to my mum, who said it was great. And then I sent it to agents. I shouldn't have done that. I mean, my mum was lovely and very good at spotting mistakes and stuff, but she perhaps wasn't the most objective person because I'm her daughter, right? So I should have given it to other people to read, and I didn't. And I joined in the end, after it got rejected, unsurprisingly, I joined a critique group. I took writing courses. I also hired an external editor from the UK who was really instrumental in getting that book published, because I really understood with her feedback what was missing and what I needed to change. So that was something I did. And the other thing is, it is not being afraid of feedback, because it is so hard, you know. At the beginning, you want people to like your stuff, of course you do, and you don't want to hear that, oh no, well, this isn't working or that isn't working. But if all you get is lip service, you're not going to get published, or it's less likely that you'll get published. So it's always, the critique is always in service of the book. However, if you go, say, to a writing group, I was in a writing group with 15 people, and I'd get 15 sets of feedback on 3,000 words, and sometimes they were contradictory. So you'd have to go with your gut and take out the pieces that you think will work for your story. But I think it's really being open to feedback and reading your work out loud back to yourself. You know, that's really important too, because you can detect not only grammatical errors and whatnot, missing words and whatnot, typos, but more to the point, cadence and flow, and have I just read something out loud that I said 3 pages ago? Hang on a minute. You know, that kind of thing. So that's really important too. But if you can find a critique partner or a group where you exchange feedback, I think that can be really, really helpful.
I agree. I agree. I mean, yes, I know some people will, you know, ask their parents and, you know, family members, but you're right. Get someone to actually hire someone to actually critique, because they're going to give you the honest feedback that you need, you know, about,
Yes.
especially if it's your first. So,
Yes.
and
Yes,
you're going to need
exactly.
all the feedback you're going to need when it's your first, you know, novel and first time going into a new genre. So it's you're just going to need all that, you know, advice and critique like you can get. So I completely
That's right. Yeah, yeah. And I understand, you know, obviously hiring an external editor can be really costly, but if you can find a critique partner where you trade, then it doesn't cost anything, but it can be super effective too.
absolutely, I agree with you. I would agree with that. All right, Hannah, going on to the last question. What are some of your passions outside of being an author?
Outside of being an author, well, I really, really, really enjoy mud runs, believe it or not. I don't like the running. The running, I can take it or leave it. I'm not that bothered, but the mud is really fun. I'll run fast, not fast. Let me rephrase that. I will jog. I will jog because there's another obstacle with mud. I haven't done one for a few years because of COVID, and then this year the dates just didn't work out. But I'm hoping to get back into one of them next year. They're just really fun. So that's one thing. I really love baking. That's one of
Yes.
I enjoy doing that a lot. I find it very therapeutic. And I go out walking very often. I take my audiobooks for a walk. My rule is if I'm listening to a book, I love audiobooks. If I'm listening to a book, I have to be moving. It can be anything, gardening, which I'm not a fan of, but out for a walk, working out, or I don't know, baking or doing cooking, whatever. But I am not allowed to sit down and listen to an audiobook because I sit down a lot for my work already.
Right.
And of course, reading, that's obviously a very big hobby and part of my job too, to read.
Absolutely. I agree with all of those. Baking is amazing. I love hiking as well. It's very therapeutic, very peaceful. So
Mhm.
is baking as well, especially after a hard day. I just love just baking. It just takes all the stress away. And
It
plus,
does.
plus you
Do
get
you
to
have
eat what
a
you bake. So that's always a good time.
do you have a
Um,
favorite thing to bake?
I honestly like baking cakes.
Yeah, yum.
Yeah, absolutely. Bake or trifle. Those are my favorite things to do because you could just there's so many different varieties and varieties, and it's just yeah, that's what I love doing. So yeah, that's my favorite thing.
Nice.
Yeah. Hannah, you have been an absolute pleasure to be able to speak with today. I'm so glad you were able to come on here and my audience was able to learn about you and who you are as an author. I cannot wait to see more books, and I'm with you. I'm hoping to see some adaptations of your books, silver screen, big screen, any type of screen. Yeah, it definitely needs to happen.
Oh, thank you. It's been such a lovely conversation. I really appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Of course, of course. And I highly want to encourage my audience, make sure you follow Hannah Mary on all social media, Twitter, or as we just said, X, or whatever one wants to call it now, Instagram, all of that. Just make sure you follow her, support her, check out her books. We want to see more of her, and we definitely want to see, uh, her books being turned into movies and series. So we definitely want to see that.
Thank you.
So, of course, you guys know I have been your hostess with the mostest. I appreciate everyone for listening in today. I want to thank my amazing guest, Hannah Mary, one more time. Of course, you guys know I'll be back with another great episode here soon. Until then, everyone, you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon.